with prayer this morning. No, we're continuing this message of the way of faithfulness, but I want to start with kind of an audience participation activity. So you need to help me out. I'm going to show you a picture. Don't show it yet. I'm going to show you a picture, and I want you to tell me the activity that's going to happen or is happening just by the picture that you see, okay? Now, maybe you can help me out here. So here's the first picture. So what's happening here? Construction, carpenter, someone who can use power tools, something I can't use. So what? Measuring. But you can tell a lot just by the picture of what he's doing. Maybe some skills that he has that he's putting into practice. Here's another one. Go to the next one. Football. Yeah, football. And he's making boatloads of money doing it, right? He's got some skills, and he puts that into practice on the field, and he hits somebody. I don't know what they do. But all right, next one. Now, go back to the first one. Let me go back to that one. We call that football, but how often do they actually use their feet in that thing? Like never? Now they kick the ball through goalposts, and sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 3 points. But go to the next picture. Now, football. This is football. Now, the rest of the world calls this football. Americans got to be unique, and we call it soccer. But you know exactly what's going to happen. And the World Cup is coming to the United States or North America this summer. It's an exciting time. What's the next one? What's he's a musician, sax player. Anybody want to make a guess at what type of music this guy's playing? Jazz. I mean, we know exactly the type of music just by the picture of that and playing jazz. I think we have one more. A ballerina, dance. You talk about skills that I don't have. You don't want to see this white boy dance. You just don't want to do that. But that picture tells me that someone can dance and has some skills to that. I've got it's not a picture, but it is a question. What's the next one? If you were to put a picture up that would define or describe a Christian, what would it be? Think about that. If we were to go and get the word on the street, and someone just took a camera and a mic and just started walking down the street, and they asked this question: what should a Christian look like? Or what comes to your mind when you hear the word Christian? Imagine what some of those answers would be. Some wouldn't be too encouraging. Hypocrite, maybe. Some of the Christian job majors, from some of the meanest people I know. I don't know what would come, but what should come? That's the question. What should be used to describe a Jesus follower? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about this morning. We've been in this series, The Way of Faithfulness, and Psalm 119:30 is where we're pulling this from. And the psalmist says this: I have chosen the way of faithfulness. I could have chosen a number of paths, but I've chosen your way. I've chosen to walk down this path, the way of faithfulness. And I'm going to follow the faithful one, Jesus. And I have set my heart on your laws, your rules of the road, if you would. That's my life. That's my commitment. That's my priority. I've chosen to live a life walking down the way of faithfulness, following the faithful one. So 2 weeks ago, we began this and said, okay, so let's look at two words. We have the word choose, but we quickly went to this word follow. Jesus said, come follow me. Come follow me. And so the activity that's taking place on this way of faithfulness by the one who's chosen to walk down it is I'm going to follow Christ. I'm going to follow the one who's invited me to the road, invited me on this path, invited me on the journey, who has said to me and to us, follow me. So what should we be doing? Pretty simple, follow Jesus. Pretty difficult, follow Jesus. And then the last week, we said on this path, we're going to always be growing, maturing, never stop growing, never not growing is the way I said it. Never stop growing. Right? You could have followed Christ for 20, 30, 40, 50 years and you're still not there. You're always to be growing. So this week I want to look at this thing called, if you're walking down this path, what should you look like? What should be used to describe you? Define you. By the way, we don't have to guess here. I mean, we could have an audience participation and you could give me your answer and I could give but Jesus gave his answer. And we don't have to guess about who's right, what it should look like, what it does look like. No, Jesus tells us. He's in the upper room and he is having his last supper with his 12 apostles. And if you remember, he gets in there and they all recline at the table and then he pushes himself back away from the table, goes to the door, he takes off the outer garment, puts a towel around his waist, pours water into a basin, and he comes and he washes the feet of his disciples. Radical act of service. An act of service that was reserved for the slaves to wash the feet. Masters did not wash feet. And I guarantee you, rabbis did not wash feet, but Jesus washed feet. And then he tells his disciples, he says, hey, that which I've done for you, you need to do for each other. And in John chapter 13, verse 34, he says this, a new command I give to you, love one another. As I have loved you, you should also love one another. And this should not have surprised the deacon or the disciples that day in the upper room, because they had heard Jesus teach before, and he said, let me just tell you the number one commandment, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second one is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And so this should not have surprised anybody in the room that day. Jesus says, I'm going to give you a new command. And here it is, I want you to love one another. As you have seen me love you, you do that for others. And he just got through washing their feet. I mean, in essence, he's saying, oh, by the way, this love is a selfless love, because if it's a selfish love, I'd have never picked up the towel and the bowl with water in it. I wouldn't, that's beneath me. It's a sacrificial love. It goes beyond what someone would expect. It's a radical love. As I have loved you, you love one another. And then we have this in verse 35, which tells me this is the answer to the question, what should a Christian should be described as? Because in verse 35, everyone will know that you are my followers, my disciples, that you're on the way of faithfulness. Everyone will know that. How? By your love for one another. What should that picture be of a Christian, of a Jesus follower walking down this way of faithfulness? It should be someone who's loving well. Someone who's loving others. But what does that look like? I mean, I think the word love is overused these days. I mean, we love hot dogs and we love our spouse. Hopefully differently. But we use this word love for a lot of different things. What does love actually look like? It can be fuzzy. It can be vague. I use this word, and my staff is just laughing at me because I use this word, but here's the word. It's the word squishy. Like nailing Jell-O to the wall. How do you get to the heart of what love is and what love does and what love looks like? Maybe we can answer that question. I think we can. But what I want you to see first is there's no question that you and I should be living a life loving others. Jesus said it, John chapter 13, a new command I give to you, love one another. But I want to look at Paul. Paul, the apostle, Paul, he went around persecuting Christians, arresting Christians, persecuting the church. That was his aim. That was his priority. That's what he did. Until God got a hold of him and Christ got a hold of him, and then he went around planting churches. Maybe the most prolific church planter we've ever seen. And so he would plant churches, and then he'd move on to another city and plant a church, and then he'd move on. But he would write letters back to these churches, encouraging them and guiding them, sometimes rebuking them. Hey, stop doing that. You need to do this. I want to look at 4 letters. And as we look at these 4 letters, I want you to see in what Paul is emphasizing. And so first we'll go to Colossians, so the city of Colossae. And in Colossians chapter 4, verse 12, he says this: above all, put on love. So if you're wondering what you should do, I'm just telling you, above everything else that we have on the list, you need to put on love. It's what you're to do. It's what you're to be known for. Above all, put on love. And then we go to the church at Ephesus. And so he wrote this letter to Ephesus, and in Ephesus chapter 5, verse 1 and 2, therefore be imitators of God as dearly loved children, and walk in love as Christ also loved us and gave himself for us, a sacrificial and fragrant offering to God. Be imitators of God. And what does that look like? Well, walk in love. You want to imitate God? Here it is. You go love others. You walk in love as Christ loved you, as Christ loved you, sacrificially, selflessly, radically. You go love others that way. And if you live life that way, it's going to be a fragrant, acceptable offering to God. And then if we go to the church at Galatia, in chapter 5, verse 22, Paul says, the fruit of the Spirit is love. It starts the list off. Let me just tell you, if you're walking in the Spirit, you're going to love. Because that's what Jesus did, and that's what Jesus invited you to do and encouraged you to do and commanded you to do, that you are going to be loving others. And then if we go to the city of Corinth, and we go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, this is known as the love chapter. It's used in weddings, but it wasn't meant for weddings. I guess it can be used for weddings, not that it can't be used for weddings, but it was meant to the church. It was meant for you and I, for Christians who are walking down this way of faithfulness. So let's just look at verse 1 of chapter 13. If I speak human, what am I saying? If I speak human or angelic tongues, there we go, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. Let's stop there. Now, Paul says you could speak eloquently. You could speak persuasively. You could be the showstopper when it comes to speaking. But if you don't have love, all they're hearing is a sounding gong and a clanging cymbal. If I had a drumstick, I would hit the cymbal and let you just hear it. Do you know what it sounds like? Noise. I hit it a couple of times. You know what you're going to tell me to do? Preacher, please stop. If you don't have love, it doesn't matter how eloquent you are, they're not going to hear it. And verse 2 says this: if I have the gift of prophecy and understand all the mysteries and all the knowledge, and if I have all the faith so that I can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. He says, you could have all the knowledge in the world. You could be the smartest person in the room. And you can have the strongest faith in the room. But if you don't have love, you don't have anything. You can know a lot and you can believe a lot, but if you don't have love, you're nothing. I wonder if that describes a lot of Christians. Oh, they have a lot of head knowledge. And they have a lot of belief, but they're not loving. Paul says, if that's you, I'm just telling you, not amounting to much. Verse 3 says this: and if I give away all my possessions, so you can be generous, and if I give over my body in order to boast, but I do not have love, I gain nothing. And Paul makes it clear. Colossians, above all, put on love. Ephesians, you walk in love. You be imitators of God. Galatians, the fruit of the Spirit is love. It should be what you are known for. Corinthians, you could be the greatest communicator. You have not love, you're nothing. You could have all the knowledge and belief in the world, and you have not love, you have nothing. You can be generous, but if you're not loving, you're not amounting to much. I mean, there's no question in the world what you Christians should look like. People of love. Now, what Paul has not done, at least in the verses I've read, this tells us what that looks like. Is it squishy? Is it vague or fuzzy? Foggy? No. In fact, it's as clear as you want it to be, because let's go back to Colossians. So in Colossians chapter 4, before he says, above all, put on love, verse 12 says this, therefore, as God's chosen ones, holy and dearly loved, put on compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience, bearing with one another, forgiving one another. And if anyone has a grievance against another, just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you are also to forgive. And above all, put on love. So let's just kind of flesh those out. I mean, what does that look like? Well, be kind. Let's start there. Be kind. Be compassionate. All this is just a fruit of love. Kindness is an extension of loving others. Compassion is an extension of loving others. Having patience is an extension of loving others. Being gentle, being forgiving, bearing with one another, walking with one another who's going through a rough time. It's just love in action. See, it's not fuzzy at all. It's not like nailing Jell-O to the wall. No, it's pretty clear. Now, if we go to Ephesians. So in Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 1 says, be imitators of God and walk in love. But let's go back to verse 32, chapter 4, verse 32. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving one another, just as God also forgave you in Christ. Therefore, be imitators of God as dearly loved children. Walk in love as Christ also loved us and gave himself for us, a sacrificial and fragrant offering to God. There it is again. Be kind. Be compassionate. Be forgiving. And by the way, this is just an extension of what it looks like if you're walking in love. Go to Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23. The fruit of the Spirit is love. He continues, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. I got that out of order, but there's 9 of them, I think. I had a youth minister said, the other 8 fruits is just describing what love looks like. So the fruit of the Spirit is love. What does that look like? Well, joy, and peace, and patience, and kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. You put that into practice, and all you're doing is loving others well. And then we can go to Corinthians. And best definition of love, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 through 8. Here it is. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It is not boastful. It is not arrogant. It's not rude. It's not self-seeking. It's not irritable. Does not keep a record of wrong. Love finds no joy in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. If you just want to know what love looks like, spend some time in that passage. You could spend the rest of your life in that passage and never master it. Patient. Kind. Not rude. Not selfish. Forgives, loves truth, never fails. It's not squishy at all. Pretty concrete. And Jesus says the world will know that you're my followers if what? If you live life that way. And so if you're on the way of faithfulness, you've chosen to walk this way of faithfulness, not only have you made the decision, I'm going to follow Christ, and not only have you made the decision, I'm going to never stop growing and never not growing, but you've made the decision you're going to live life and you're going to look like what it looks like to love others. And let me just kind of give you 3 observations and then we're done. Observation number one is this. If we're going to love others well, proximity matters. You can't love people well from a distance. You have to get close. Now, with technology, geography now doesn't separate us much. I mean, you can text and you can email and you can video conference call. We speak to our daughter all the way in Cape Town, South Africa every week through video. So you can love others well, and you can be in a different city, a different state, a different country. But you got to be close enough to love. See, proximity matters. To be kind, you have to be close enough to be kind. To be patient, you have to be close enough to get irritated so you can demonstrate patience. To be forgiving, you got to be close enough to be hurt so you can forgive. Proximity matters. And if we're going to love others, as Jesus tells us to love others, we're going to have to get close enough to people who love, to love them. And some of them, I'm just going to tell you, some of them aren't lovable. But before we jump on that bandwagon, there's going to be people who would say, you might not be too lovable either, but we'll get off of that one pretty quick. You can't love well if you're not going to get close enough to love. But preacher, I might get hurt. No. You might not get hurt. You will get hurt if you get close enough. Jesus lived his life with 12 disciples, and he was betrayed by one, deserted by one. The rest of them ran away. You will get hurt, but get close enough anyway. If we're going to be known by our love, we got to get close enough to people who we can love. Proximity matters. Observation number 2 is love makes a difference. Love makes a difference. All we have to do is go to John 3:16 to tell us love makes a difference. For God so, what? He loved the world. He loved you and me. That he gave his one and only son, Jesus, left heaven, entered earth, go to the cross, so that anyone who believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And all that stems from God's love for you and me. Did love make a difference? Sure did there. See, we could have open mic time right now, and we could pass the mic around, and you could tell me people in your life who've made a difference in your life. A coach, a teacher, a neighbor, a family member, a stranger. In the right space at the right time and made the decision to love, and you're better off because of it. Because it made a difference. See, I can go back to churches I've pastored in Colorado City. Mildred Free. And there's only one Mildred Free. God threw away the mold when he made Mildred Free. But she took a 25-year-old green, ignorant pastor. And she loved me well. In my mistakes, she loved me well. Gene and Joanne Parker. Gene and Joe. Loved us well. Loved my kids well. In fact, my kids look at Gene and Joe. Gene passed away during COVID as their third set of grandparents. They would rather spend time with Gene and Joe than they would rather spend time with mom and dad. When we left Colorado City, they said to us, they said, we're not going to get close to another pastor. Hurts too much. And I said, you have to get close to other pastors because they need you like we needed you. Tell Joe Hyde Tuesday. Go to Seymour. I can just go through a list. Sid Wynn and Bill Brown, and Randall and Beverly. Just loved. By the way, Beverly's having knee replacement surgery Tuesday. You can pray for her. Level Land, I was raised at Level Land, so I could go through a whole list of folks who love me. And then Bacon Heights, I can just look at love makes a difference. Love changes things. You have to get close enough to love, but understand you can get hurt, but it makes a difference. So love anyway. And then the last observation is intentionality is a must. Can you accidentally, haphazardly love? Yes, you can. But if we want to be known for our love, we must be intentional about it. It must not be happenstance, and it must not be accidental. Don't even put it on the automatic mode. No. I'm intentionally deciding to love. Because that's what Jesus did. And so if we're going to love well, first, I think we're going to have to be present. Be present. I don't know if you're like me, but I'm oblivious 90% of the time. No amens. No amens. But if we're going to love intentionally, we just need to be aware of what's around us, because there's people that come into our paths that need to be loved. And if we are aware of it, we can do it. But if we're going about our day and bopping along and we don't have a clue what is around us, we'll miss it. Here's what I know. You're going to come into contact with somebody this week who needs to be loved. Maybe they're hurting. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they're afraid. But they have you in their path to love them. But you can't be intentional in doing it if you're not aware of it. And to be aware of it, you need to be present. So we're going to be intentional. We need to be present. But number two is we also need to understand love is active. Love is not a passive word at all. Love is a verb. Love is not being, love is doing. Love does, not is. So go do. Go love. Yes, be present, be aware, and when God brings someone or something to your mind, hey, then do. So a couple of questions that will help you in the doing part. I'd like to ask this next question. What is my next serve? What is my next serve? And I like the word serve because you don't think about serve as inactive, do you? Serve is something you're doing. So what's my next serve? Because many times it's in your next serve is your next opportunity to love. Could be a phone call. Could be a text. We don't do this anymore. Y'all might do it more than this next crowd does it, but it could be a handwritten note. What's my next serve? The second question that I think is so good to ask here when it comes to love is active is this. What does love require of me? What does love require of me? And if we choose to get close enough to people to love, proximity matters. And we understand that it can make a difference. It will make a difference. It does make a difference. Loving does. And if we make it a point and a priority to be intentional, to be aware of people in our paths and our surroundings, to understand love is active and we need to do, so what's my next serve? What does love require of me? I am confident when someone says, what does a Christian look like? You'll come to their mind. And when you come to their mind, they're going to say, I think they just love well. And if that's what's said of you, and that's what's said of me, and that's what's said of us. I read Romans 12, 1 and 2, or 1. An acceptable offering to God. If that is what's said of us, I just am confident it'll be an acceptable offering. Father, we thank you that you are a God who loves, that you're a God who loves selflessly and sacrificially and radically. You go above and beyond. The cross is a picture of that. And you've called us to love as you've loved. Help us, as we walk out of this place, not be confused about what that is and what that looks like. It's not vague. It's not fuzzy. It's not squishy. It's active. It's real. Kind and compassionate, gentle and good, forgiving, patient, bearing with one another who needs someone to walk with them through a rough time. So may we be about that as we live life walking down this way of faithfulness, representing you to a watching world. So would you lead us? Would you give us opportunities this week to love people, to love others? It's in Christ's name that I pray.